problem with something like 9/11 is there's so much proof the official story is a fraud. But what about the latest evidence that our government would work with al-Qaeda, renaming him ISIS or ISIL or whatever Obama's name to confuse the public is this week, that they would turn them loose to kill Christians all over the Middle East, and that they would open our border up so they could attack us here? That is aiding and abetting right there. That is inside job right there. That is criminal right there. So open and shut, boom. I don't ever want to hear I'm a traitor for pointing out the official story of 9/11 wasn't true, or that they were going to use those attacks to take our freedoms. Clearly, they now say Homeland Security is for returning veterans, gun owners, conservatives, libertarians, patriots, constitutionalists. Clearly, I predicted that back at the time. And there's all these clips to play, but I think we should play first. AJ predicts 9/11 back in July. This says July 21st. I think it was July 25th, 2001, in a 2.5-hour access show I did, that if somebody's got the whole tape, I'll put a bounty out, $1,000 for it. I thought I had a copy around here because over the 2.5 hours, I mean, I broke down every reason how they transform our society into a police state, the RAND Corporation documents, the National Stabilization Force, how they would use terrorism to do all this. And we could do like a whole hour special off that 2.5-hour live access show I did that Jimmy Vaughn saw live. And then he saw it when it re-aired later, and everybody got real mad at me because it aired on 9/11 a few months later that night. When I was saying they'll attack the World Trade Center and the government did it, I'd said it 2 months before. And then I could never find the tape of it again. Somebody, again, found it and put it on YouTube, a short clip. But this isn't even the really meaty stuff. AJ predicts 9/11 from Access TV back in July of 2001. Here it is. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so glad that you could join us today for this Wednesday, July 25th, 2001 broadcast. Tyranny is enveloping the globe, and the United States is a shining jewel the globalists want to bring down, and they will use terrorism as the pretext to get it done. I'm going to put the call out that you call the White House and tell them, look, we've seen the news stories that you've wanted to blow things up, that you have blown things up, and that you're saying that 4 million of us are going to die and we need martial law and the Associated Press at one of your little drills you had, and that we're aware of who the terrorists are if you pull this. This can stop this Hitlerian Reichstag event. I want to put the toll-free number up for Congress. And I won't want you to believe Alex Jones. I want you to go get these news stories off my website. I want you to call these major newspapers. I want you to find out these statements were true by the White House about preparing for martial law. And I want you to let them know that if there is any terrorism, we know who to blame. The point is, if any terrorism comes, it's from this government. And if there was an outside threat like a bin Laden, who was a known CIA asset in the 80s, running the Mujahideen war, and whose family builds all the military bases over in Saudi Arabia right now, and sits on the board of Iridium Satellite. He's the boogeyman they need in this Orwellian phony system. I want the White House numbers up there now. A big part of this solution, after you research all the government terrorism and check out what I'm saying is true, call the White House and tell them, we know the government's planning terrorism. We know Oklahoma City and World Trade Center was terrorism. We know the Joint Chiefs of Staff wanted to blow up airliners, Baltimore Sun. If you do it, we're going to blame you because we know who's up to it. Or if you let some terrorist group do it, like the World Trade Center, we know who to blame. And you could save the planet. I'm calling it Operation Expose the Government Terror. From the archive, I had more hair then and was a little bit skinnier. I get sick of looking at myself all day, but it's part of the job here. So there you have it from way back in 2001. Here we are 13 years and 2 months later, and I'm yet again saying they're clearly going to let al-Qaeda attack us under the name ISIS, or they'll do it, the criminal elements that run our government, and use that to launch a bunch of new wars and have no-bid weapons contracts and sell the idea of spying on us and violating our rights. This is how they take over. And I know you know that as a regular listener. Many of you knew it before I was born. You knew how the world worked. How do we get this information out to everybody else so that we don't keep reliving this? I mean, this is ridiculous. I predicted last year that they would end up saying we had to go into Syria to stop al-Qaeda there, who they were openly arming, and now they're doing it. I mean, it's so predictable, but it's also so over the top. We'll talk to our reporters in New York coming up, and more smoking guns. That's what's happening. America was in a trance in 1913 when the private banks took over, the offshore banks. They slowly got the nation into debt. They created Hitler and the communists so they would have an outside threat to turn us into a police state and allow those other empires to go around robbing and stealing so they could have culpable, non-culpable deniability, plausible denial. And then now they're here opportunistically funding a giant global hardcore jihad against Christians and any stable, sovereign, secular government to overthrow. They'll use that jihad threat to then take all Western freedoms as well. But once you provoke the people of this republic and liberty lovers, not just here but worldwide, it is the beginning of the end of the tyranny. Once the genie's out of the bottle, once people know the manipulation and the full spectrum dominance program that the crime syndicate worldwide is using, it's game over. And that's now the point we've gotten to. One reason I also like the new studio setup is that more and more we got good mics in there with the crew, and we are going to be able to then just, hey, I want to hear what Jakari Jackson thinks about what's going on. And then we can literally just talk to Jakari in there and have like a discussion like we're here together. In fact, I didn't tell you guys I was going to do this. Does he pipe through so I can talk to him on air? Okay, well, that's the plan. Absolutely. We'll pipe him through. Yeah, sure. But just down the road, then I will be able to sit back and talk to everybody that's in there. We'll be able to pan over and talk to Rob Dew, also known as Deucifer. Let's go ahead and pan over to him for TV viewers. Dun, dun, dun. There it is, ladies and gentlemen, with Marcos Morales. There you go. All right. See, we got a few crew members around here that got names that are so cool sounding. I just walk around saying them, like Jakari Jackson, Marcos Morales. Who else am I saying's got a really cool sounding name? I mean, Max Kaiser's got one, but he doesn't work with us. Max Kaiser. We could have a vote with the listeners, like not what your favorite color is or fantasy football, but who has a cooler name? Buckley Hammond. That's definitely an unusual name. Or Jakari, you got to see Buckley Hammond, Jakari Jackson, Marcos Morales. Gonna have the vote on InfoWars or Deucifer. That is the giant hippie. Anyways, the whole point is we're just, all right, I always get dingy by the third hour already, and I've been up since 6 a.m., and I'm feeling good. I am a little bit goofy here. So let me get serious back to the hardcore subject. I'm going to get to some more of the smoking guns and some video clips here in a moment, Building 7. But first off, who do we have? Joe Biggs or Leanne McAdoo? They're on the ground in New York. We're going to talk to him for about 5 minutes, and then Leanne McAdoo to see what's happened since I talked to him 2 hours ago. And this is a great thing. We're here broadcasting worldwide, AM, FM, internet, video streams, podcast. They're in New York, just all together bringing you the cutting edge of true analysis here. Let's go to Joe Biggs. Joe, you've been sitting there for 10 minutes as I've been ranting. What do you think for you waking up to 9/11 Truth? When did that begin to happen? And 9/11 Truth, folks, is just not buying the official ridiculous lie, like Obama saying ISIS isn't Islamic, or there's no boots on the ground. It just means, listen, I don't believe everything you're telling me. There's more to this. What was your 9/11 Truth moment, or was it a process? And what do you think the big smoking gun of 9/11 is, Joe Biggs?
Well, first off, I'd like to throw my name in the hat for the coolest name, Alex, as Joe Biggs. Then for the waking up part, that happened my first year in Iraq. I was actually trying to buy a Jean-Claude Van Damme action movie so I could sit down in my little hooch and relax and watch it. And what it was a documentary about 9/11. And instead of watching Jean-Claude Van Damme, I watched this documentary on the facts, the smoking guns, things that happened. And I began to reevaluate myself and my stance and questioning whether or not my being in the military and being deployed was for the right reasons. Because like I said before, I joined because of the attacks at 9/11 here in New York City, where we're at right now. We're at the bottom of the new Trade Center. So that was a defining moment for me. Like I said, it felt like I was betrayed by someone I love very much, which is my country. I still do love my country, and I'm going to stand up and fight for it as much as I can. But I am pissed off at the government and, this entire cover-up. I don't like it whatsoever. So that documentary woke me up. I began sharing it with my friends, and now I am where I am today.
I can't tell you, Joe, how many of our listeners over the years came to us via documentary films. That's why Rob Jacobson is always harping, we got to make films again, we got to make films again. Well, we make films every day. We make many documentaries. But it is true that I kind of want to make films that are so powerful, and I produce Loose Change as well, and I'm in Zeitgeist, even though they didn't ask for my permission, and the first one that was a big hit. But the point I'm getting at is the power of film really is revolutionary, and I want to encourage the viewers out there. You're just as smart as we are, probably smarter in some ways. Where are you doing a podcast? Where are you making films? Where are you taking action? Together culturally, if we promote liberty and if we shop, thinking about where the money's going and support local and support liberty-based media, we will supplant the whole system. I think 13 years after 9/11, things are so clear. People don't get mad at you now if you're a, quote, 9/11 truther because they've been lied to so much they get questioning, even if they believe the official story, Joe.
Yeah, today, right behind me, there's been quite a large group of people passing out pamphlets, saying things like that, saying, hey, do you really know what happened? Some people say, screw you, basically, and walk by and they don't want to hear anything. And I've actually had one person came up and started cussing at me earlier. But, that's just how it happens. I told him that he could take his purse and move on. But, there's a lot of people out here that are smart, that know what happened. They're awake. And, from what I've seen 10 years ago until now, you have a lot more people that are well-informed. And, yes, film is very powerful. Those documentaries, like I said, changed my life. And I know a lot of my other friends' lives as well. So that is a very important tool to help get out that information.
What do you think the biggest smoking gun is? For me, it's Building 7 because...
Oh, yeah, of course. That without a doubt right there. That's the seller right there. That's where I'm standing at right now, at the base of, right behind Josh, if you want to see. This is the new Building 7. Oh, yeah. So earlier today, it was pretty interesting. When we first got out here, I actually had a uniformed police officer who didn't want to be on film, so I respected him. He's about to retire in 2 months, he said. But he came up and he said he was one of the first responders on 9/11, and he said he saw an explosion come out and shoot debris out the bottom, out of the second tower before it ever collapsed. So he came over and he's like, I don't know if you know this or you've heard stuff. I was like, I've heard about explosions. He's like, yeah. He's like, I just want to confirm with you. He's like, if I wasn't, if I was already retired, I would have no problem going on camera. He's like, I can't have gone this far and then throw everything away. So, there's people out here that know what really happened. You have first responders that are passionate about trying to get this information out, and they're not going to sleep knowing that people are trying to cover it up. Okay, so, like I said, where we're at right now, we're right outside of the new One World Center, which is right over here to the right. Josh is going to pan over and show you. This is the brand new building. It's still under construction for the most part. Down around the ground levels, they're still doing some exterior work. But the police have completely blocked off any chances of getting near the memorial area today until 6 p.m. This whole area has just been locked down. Military has had a presence out here as well. You'll see Army and Air Force paired together. You'll see one soldier, one airman walking around. So that's been pretty crazy. There's a man over here. He is retired Special Forces, and he's standing in front of the De Oppressa Libre, which means to liberate the oppressed. They have a monument for the basically the first Special Forces responders who went into Afghanistan to go after the Taliban after the attacks. So there's a memorial for that. He stands over there, and he's been speaking to people about the missions and things like that. And I asked him, I said, do you feel betrayed at all? Do you feel like I feel that I have been lied to and betrayed by my country, and that, in essence, all the lives we lost were for the global elites to make more money. I mean, Feinstein made so much money off of this incident that it's just mind-blowing. You know, what was it, billions of dollars probably.
Her husband, yeah.
The insurance, I mean, it's mind-blowing.
Well, Larry Silverstein had double insurance on it, only got it 2 months before it happened, and we just have so much evidence. Joe, we're going to come back to you guys in just a moment and get Leanne McAdoo's top smoking gun. Thank you so much, Joe. I know you've got a lot more coming up tonight. You guys have done a fantastic job. And for myself, the whole crew, and the viewers, thank you for your dedication because, hey, I don't see it as bad that you went and fought in Iraq and Afghanistan. You meant well, even though you were manipulated into it. It takes even more courage to admit you were scammed. We've all been scammed at one time or another. What matters is admitting we were wrong later, and then now truly fighting for the Republic, really fighting for the truth. And now it's not you getting a DVD that, you know, somebody was selling in Iraq, just like in the movie Hurt Locker with little kids selling them. You are now reaching out to the people in the info war. And it all started with you going out and saying, hey, Joe, Joe Biggs here, my friend who was, clearly killed, Michael Hastings, for speaking out and telling the truth. He was set up. Homeland Security was coming after him. Everybody else in his family, friends, they all knew that. They knew Homeland Security had gone to his house, but they were all so scared they shut up. You were willing to come out when there were threats flying and talk to us and talk to Fox News. I said, that's the kind of guy I want to be a reporter. And here you are doing a great job now. People love what you're doing. And it's all about people that don't think of themselves as journalists or as info warriors doing it because you don't have a choice. And it's going to be the rank and file people like you and others getting involved, engaging, that will bring down the New World Order. So thank you so much, Joe. We'll go talk to Leanne McAdoo here in just a moment.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you. So excited to be working with Joe Biggs. And again, we're here in the new studio working out the bugs. Haven't seen hardly any bugs today. I was expecting a whole bunch of train wreck stuff. In fact, it would have been better for ratings. We'd have a light fall on my head or something like Hillary Clinton on 60 Minutes. Though there was an extra light panel on, which was even cooler, made me look like one of those giant Martian eggheads, because I already kind of look like that. If people didn't realize, my dad's a dentist, and he thinks it's interesting. I talked to an oral surgeon once. It's true. I have an incredibly wide jaw like a pit bull. So it's not that I even have a weak chin. It's that this part of the cranium is very big, and this is wide as well. So I'm kind of a freak, folks. Maybe I'm a genetic mutation, huh? Because look at that. Look at the size of that head on those shoulders. Look at the size of that head. It has its own weather systems. Who's the guy that, all right, that's enough. That's enough, guys. It's even blurred. I need to quit screwing around here. Sorry. Like, I start screwing around, and then I tell them to stop screwing around. Who's the guy that does the secret agent comedy movies? And then he's Fat Bastard on it as well. He plays himself. Austin Powers, but what's the name of the actor? Mike Myers. Yeah, he did some funnier movies where he's sitting there talking about his kid's head. And look at the size of the head. Has its own weather systems. So that's all part of our Scottish independence this week. We have Scottish John, who's been out picketing and promoting the Second Amendment for 10 years that I've known him here in Austin. And he's a Scot, got the thick Scot accent. He's going to be in studio with us tomorrow to talk about the Scottish independence vote that is coming up, and more teleprompter-free radio and television right now. Let's take you live to Clondathu, where our forces have just engaged the main bug fleet on their home world. Excuse me, that's Starship Troopers. I take you now live to New York City on the edge of the barricades to keep the slaves away. Hence, any of our ideas get out. I think I see a Tyranny Response Team shirt over there. That guy might be a listener. Leanne McAdoo, what is your take 13 years later there at Ground Zero?
Hi, Alex. Leanne McAdoo. I am very happy to be here, and I am standing outside one of what I think is one of the smoking guns of 9/11, the brand new and improved World Trade Center building number 7. It's right behind us, and I think there's a consensus around here that anyone, just look at the physics. Just look at the physics. They keep saying 2 planes, 3 buildings, do the math. That's a huge smoking gun. Larry Silverstein profited. He got more than double what he owed on the building back in blood money and insurance money. So quite the payout there. But if I had to say another smoking gun, I'm sorry, but it's the invisible plane that hit the Pentagon. I mean, I've looked at the pictures.
Why are you being racist?
Yeah, I like to educate myself. I know a lot of people would prefer to just, watch the game. And that was something we noticed. We were talking about that last night at dinner before the president came on to speak, just how much patriotism has been lost in this country. There was a time when people, even if they were at a bar, out to dinner or hanging out, if they knew the president was coming on to speak about something like what he was talking about last night, basically bringing us into a new war with Syria that's going to extend beyond his presidency, people would have stopped to pay attention. But nobody even cared. And in fact, they were pretty upset that we asked them to change the channel so that we could listen to what the president had to say. We become a total joke. Our country's become a joke. The presidency has become a joke.
And we're not bashing, because I know personally, your view on this. I'm not putting words in your mouth. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's not that we like bashing America. There's still a lot of great people here. It's that you've just got so many entitled. Here's an example. I went to a local community pool with my children yesterday, and there were some yuppies in the shallow end, two lovebirds kissing. Look, they were both about 25 college students. And my daughters were splashing and racing in a little bit of water, because I happened to be watching them. I was sitting down on the side drying off, happened to hit the lady in the face. And she was like, what are you, is this, I mean, what? And the guy, and all these so-called yuppies get so mad by families with kids, like they're revolted by it or something. And it's this entitlement. It's this decadence. It's this, I don't want to know. I want to play fantasy football that the system is banking on. It's scary. Go ahead. Sorry.
Right. Well, and that's how they know it's going to be so easy to control this narrative. And the kids that are, just tomorrow, they're going to be teenagers for the first time teenagers that didn't actually experience 9/11. They weren't alive. And so they're counting on to just continue regurgitating their narrative of how things happened and hoping that the rest of the people who were there, who could see with their own eyes, will just buy their story. They're just hoping. But that's the problem, is that a lot of those kids are, they're the internet generation. So they're going to look up these pictures.
Hold on, we're going to skip this network break so we can have time to get into some of the smoking guns. But Leanne, I'm going to come back to you in a moment. Let's cut to the studio shot right now of Nico and Buckley. Look, Buckley looks like a Russian gangster sitting there. And so people are always trying to claim that we work for Putin, the Vatican, Israel, or something. I want to say it's all true, folks. There is Buckley. His real name is Vladimir Bugalnumskla. Yeah, also codenamed the Wolf. Look at and his top henchman beside him, Nico, deal with you. Jiu-jitsu master. He grew up Eastern Russia. Look at this. I shouldn't even joke around. It'll be a whole new conspiracy theory. Actually, folks, Nico is Bill Hicks. It's true. All right, I'm sorry. This is supposed to be a serious fourth hour. Everybody knows that that's probably not a good idea. That's why I quit doing the fourth hour. Because I'm just, after 3 hours being so serious, I can't handle it anymore. It is incredibly serious. Leanne, they could stage a new 9/11 and blame it on ISIS or let ISIS in to do it. And they're so arrogant, and the TV heads don't seem to care, and we see all the preparations for it. I see them getting ready for a nuclear 9/11, and Obama says the number one threat he sees is a mushroom cloud in New York. So that's what my gut tells me, is something really huge is on the horizon, and that we're seen as such chumps by the globalists that they're going to pull something big. What do you think?
Well, and that's exactly right. He says that's his biggest fear, and then they go around poking the nuclear bear, trying to provoke Putin, and one of the only countries that is basically saying, yay, we've got nukes and we're going to use them if you make us. So,
but I mean, why be closed-minded? I mean, they're trying to promote, all sorts of stuff now. So what's wrong with poking the bear?
Hey, apparently, as long as he's got nukes, that's what the kids want to do these days. So
I don't want to give them any ideas now. That'll be a whole new term out there. I guess nuclear war will be like a new fetish, where you destroy. I guess nihilists are kind of into that. What do you think, Leanne?
Well, I mean, they clearly bathe in the blood of all these deaths that they've committed. They revel in it. They celebrate it. So why not just see?
Why are you being
Just see if they can
closed-minded?
destroy
Well, I
the
mean,
planet.
you haven't tried bathing in blood.
You're right. Maybe it's magnificent. Who knows? There's actually a fountain over here with a big, looks like kind of blood platelets here in Larry Silverstein's fountain to commemorate those who survived.
He probably comes out at midnight like Nosferatu. And actually, can we pull up Nosferatu? Because Larry Silverstein starred in the 1927 original Nosferatu. We've actually got a shot of him right after he filed the insurance policy on 9/11 a few months before. He went out and had a celebratory snack. Let's see if we can put Nosferatu behind me. There you go. We can actually get a video clip of Larry Silverstein.
Pardon me, had some. So what I'm curious too is like you see the people celebrating when they actually see all the rioting and things going on in Ferguson. You saw how that affected people around the world. People were saying, "Yay, the Americans! They're finally waking up. They're finally fighting back. They finally realize that they're living in a police state, and they're rooting for us. They're rooting for the American people to wake up and to realize that our government is occupied."
Exactly. But again, it's fine to start with going out and demonstrating for the First Amendment. But we need to go out and talk to the cops when they're not in riot gear to wake them up to what's happening. Just like that police officer came over to Biggs earlier and said he's awake. Only reason I'm saying let's make friends with the police is because compared to the general public, I'm actually able to wake police up or they're already awake. Because they're in the system. They know something's wrong, most of them. Most of them aren't just bullies for no reason. They're all under peer pressure and compartmentalized. From doing this 20 years, I've just have discovered the military is just so awake. And then the police are the second best group. In my experience, that's why they want us fighting with them, because the system absolutely hates them. That's why they demonize the veterans and things, is because they're worried about anybody that could stop the takeover when it becomes incredibly obvious. Who went after Hitler? His own military. Who went after Stalin and probably killed him? His own military. Who ends up going after the really bad guys? It's usually the military or the police. That's why the system keeps them on such a short leash and right close to them. And then Homeland Security gives them all this federal training, sends them out to do this, and gives them all the equipment, and then comes in, oh, it's terrible what you did, even though they set them up for it. Very sophisticated manipulation. So just like we're played off against the Muslims, we need to be more sophisticated and realize the larger plan. Don't you agree, Leanne?
Absolutely. And you can see that separation here evident just today in the fact that we had the first responders, once again, weren't allowed to join in the ceremony because they know, first of all, of course, the families are going to want to hug these people that risked their lives to save their family, saved a whole lot of more lives that day than what was lost. But maybe they have some questions for the first responders.
But see how reality's flipped? We're arming Al-Qaeda publicly. And then meanwhile, the first responders can't get medical care. Leanne McAdoo, you have more reports coming up for the Nightly News. Great job, you and Joe. Take a break, get something to eat, kick your feet back for a while, and then go out and get some more great reports. And then it's Miller time.
My favorite time, the Magic Hour. We'll be out at Times Square reporting, bringing you the info.
Hey, I just had an idea. How about we get a bunch of info warriors to go to Times Square, say at 7 o'clock tonight, in front of some landmark. And we'll put a tweet out and a Facebook out. There's hardly any promotion, but I bet 100 people show up. You want to call for a Liberty Mob to show up in Times Square, Leanne? Where do you want them to meet you?
Liberty Mob in Times Square. What we're hearing is that the architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth have paid to get a one of the billboards there to have a revolving loop of World Trade Center 7 going down.
Yeah, they've done that before, but where do you want people to meet you?
That's at 42nd and 6th Street. We'll be there. I think that it's like the magic steps or something, the steps to infinity, right in the center, right in the heart of everything. We will be there.
47th and 6th Street. We just had that idea.
42nd. 42nd.
42nd and 6th. 42nd and 6th. We'll tweet that out at the Magic Steps. Everybody will see Leanne and Joe Biggs out there. Great job, Leanne.
Thank you, Alex.
All right, folks, we're out of time. I didn't get to most of the smoking guns. There's hundreds of them, but we have 10 on Infowars.com, the top 10. Cheney recalls taking charge from bunker, the stand down. 15 of the 19 hijackers led into the country. Hijackers trained in the U.S. Obama, it says Obama. Osama not wanted by FBI for 9/11. Prior warnings, Willie Brown warned not to fly. Condoleezza Rice. It just goes on and on. The 28 pages, people that have seen them, says that there was basically a stand-down ordered when Saudi Arabia involved. That's just some of the major issues. The cell phones working from impossible heights. The FBI admitting it was fake. Let's thank God there wasn't a terror attack yet today. I hope it doesn't happen. I hope it was just Homeland Security fear-mongering. Thank you to all the InfoWars out there making this possible, and great job to the crew. Until 7 o'clock tonight with InfoWars Nightly News, you are the resistance. The globalists have controlled the mainstream media for a long time, but now they're expanding, making the weaponization even more vicious and deceptive. All the major networks are state-run.
We are partnering this year with the NFL.
The NFL has become a political weapon against the Second Amendment and pushes Obamacare. MSNBC tells us that our children belong to the state.
We have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities.
The brainwashing media machine has been turned up on high, and it's time for humanity to double down on the true people's media and strike back against the tyrants that are destroying our civilization with their lies and fraud. We are the resistance. You are the resistance. You are the InfoWar. It is more important than ever to realize that we are not the alternative media. We are the true media. The establishment dinosaur press is dying.
We are in an information war, and we are losing that war.
Join us at InfoWarsNews.com and PrisonPlanet.tv. Members can share their memberships with up to 11 people. By subscribing, you will literally be buying war bonds in the InfoWar to expand our operation in the face of the tyrants. Join us at PrisonPlanet.tv.